Yeah, I don't know. We heard Thiago's done. Yeah, no, I was talking to apparently it's going to be announced now tonight.
Good evening. It is the club. It is brought to you in association with the Pitchball Football Fan app, giving the fans a voice. Get your free download on the App Store and Google Play Store, and you join us in the wake of the Monday Night Football there, where Everton have just lost to Tottenham, and it begs the question, what is the point of Everton Football Club? Look, this is a Liverpool podcast. It is the podcast of the Premier League champions. Tonight, I've got in with me Andy Young. How's it going, Andy?
All good, Ray. All good. Everton not even good enough for fancy football points. It is quite pointless.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely no point having Everton players in your team. But was that just a little bit? Did we just catch you there having some kind of off-the-record conversation? Was it Thiago related, or well, we might come on to that. Yeah. We've also got Gar Breen. How's it going, Gar?
Hello, Ray. How are you, pal? You all right?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Good. And over from Barcelona, we've got Pete. How's it going, Pete?
Good evening from sunny Spain. Hope everyone's okay. Still,
the weather's miserable here, but I'm sure you've been basking in more sunshine for the last week, have you?
Yeah, mate. I mean, if ever I needed to top up my tan, this would be the week to do it. I'm sorry that you're getting rained on back in Dublin and wherever you are, but sun's shining out my window, pal.
Yeah, absolutely useless weather here. But look, we're not here to discuss the weather. We're here to discuss Liverpool and what's happened over the last week. We'll cover off the last two games since we were with you. The loss against Manchester City and the win yesterday against Villa. We'll also look forward to the two games upcoming against Brighton and Burnley. And I guess we'll look and try and understand what the kind of mentality is of the players. Is it going after the 101-point record of Man City, or is it really laying some foundation blocks for life after Hendo next season, bringing in, Keita, Thiago, and that Fabinho dream team midfield a la FIFA. So, look, we will start. Andy, you and I and a few of the other lads were out on Thursday night to watch the City game. Fair to say, the two of us were fairly angry at times there with the performance against City. Well, not really the performance, but no Liverpool fan really likes watching the side 4-0 down, do they, at the end of the day? It doesn't happen very often. So how did you feel across the... how did you feel across the...
I think it's the same.
How did you feel going from the City game into the Villa game, and what did you think the performance was like?
I'm going to get a new clock.
It's poor. It's a poor clock. Let's just talk about Sean Lawson slating everybody's clock. I have pictures of football behind me. You'll all have sad clocks. Come on, sort it out, lads.
I'm going to put a new clock up tonight.
Good.
I have a new clock ready to go, actually.
You like the way it was done. The two top lads have all the football gear, and the two bottom lads have beautiful clocks.
Players play. That's all I'd say. Players play. And pundits have clocks.
Ray showing off his climate cool device there. I've got my house digitalised and zoned. So it's going to be no messing in Ray's house when you're in whatever room. You can pick the temperature.
100%, Andy.
And his clock from 1957, the last time Everton won a trophy. I think it stopped.
Stole it from Goodison.
Yeah.
So, Andy, Sunday,
What?
what did you make of the response?
On Sunday, yeah, it wasn't a great first half, but who gives a shit? I just came on to Twitter to see what everyone was giving out about because I knew there'd be loads of giving out. We're supposed to be enjoying this league win. It doesn't really matter what the performance is like. The only disappointing part for me was not seeing Harvey Elliott on the pitch.
Mm.
But other than that,
He was obviously practicing his signature, wasn't he, for today?
Yeah, I mean, did we even make 5 subs?
I think we did in the end, yeah, because they made sure they got Nico an extra appearance on there for on the countdown.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Nico come on for it with about a minute left. But I thought that was only the 4th sub. So,
maybe it was.
Yeah, could be wrong, but yeah, look, it's the main thing now. I think it's just to see these fellas coming onto the pitch and doing the business and giving players like Naby minutes. I thought he was good overall. And preparing for next season. We've got the benefit of a really long preseason now. So forget about measuring performances and forget about clocking up this record points. If it happens, it happens. It's not that important. The most important thing now is taking advantage of the extra long preseason and getting ourselves ready.
Yeah, I think just looking back at the subs there was
holy shit.
Yeah, the dog's going a bit mental there. Looking at the subs there was 3 made around the same time on 60, and then you bring Curtis Jones on with 5.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, you bring Curtis Jones on with 5 minutes to go, and then obviously Nico was getting proper sweat on trying to get that appearance in injury time, which I thought was quite funny because at one stage it looked like the ball wasn't going to go out to play, and imagine that costing someone a Premier League medal. But no, I mean, Gar, just going back to Thursday, it wasn't really a 4-0 drubbing. Look, we had loads of chances on Thursday. We could have taken the lead, and personally, I thought that was kind of looking back at it. It was a game where the first goal was going to be decisive because I think whoever didn't get it, whoever didn't get that goal was always going to lack for a bit of motivation. So it was good to see that there was a response there yesterday, even though it wasn't swashbuckling, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was a bit critical of some players, I would imagine, in the first half. And certain players to me didn't stand out enough, and these would be players who wouldn't be regular starters, that you would think in their own mentality would push on to try and put a performance in. Either they could be gone out the door, or are they fighting for a squad place for next year? That was my only disappointment yesterday, right? Good to see a couple of young lads come on again. Great, brilliant stuff, and absolutely delighted for Curtis Jones. If I'm honest with you, absolutely delighted. Second half, right? I think I need to speak about this. Jordan Henderson comes on, leadership, organisation, and with 2 times, and that was within the first few minutes of him coming on, he grabs a certain player and tells him to stay out left. And the first goal is created from that position. So, Jordan Henderson does what it says in the tin. In fairness to the guy, he's been incredible. Anyway, I'm sure we might speak about that later on. But the subs made a huge difference to the second half, as we all saw.
Yeah, I think, Shawnee's saying in the comments there, the FIFA midfield didn't work. Essentially, it's not just Hendo coming on, it's Georginio Wijnaldum coming on at the same time. And the balance was fairly obvious within a few minutes.
We didn't keep the ball, right? We just didn't keep the ball first half. It was poor passes around the pitch. We just didn't keep the ball. Genie comes on to keep the ball, and Henderson comes on to make things simple, to go right and left to our fullbacks or whoever shown from in the advanced midfield positions, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, the other thing, we bring those substitutes on. Interestingly, listening to some of the Villa players after the game, they seem pretty hypercritical over the fact that teams, like ourselves, City, they can make 5 subs and it puts them at a big disadvantage. What do you make of that?
I think it's fair enough. You have to look at. I mean, looks are always deceiving. I mean, Luke Gordon just made a comment there about Ray sounding like a 20-year-old, but looking like a 50-year-old, and it's true. But what's also true is, Villa work so hard off the ball. To be honest with you. Only for, normally in the normal dynamic of a game, you've got an unmotivated Liverpool. You're wearing them down. They're not knocking the ball about, very well. And all of a sudden they can change half their team. The dynamic changes. Whereas under normal circumstances, they can make 3 substitutions, and it becomes more of a ding dong in the last half an hour. So I do, to be honest with you, let's not be partisan about this. I do have sympathy for the teams down the below. They're missing their home crowds, or their travelling support, which is usually more vociferous, and they're missing that normal game dynamic. Having worn Liverpool down, they're just seeing the likes of Georginio Wijnaldum coming on, the likes of Jordan Henderson coming on, and all of a sudden you're almost back to zero. So it's very disheartening for them. I do have sympathies. However, if you have a better first half of the season, you're not in that situation, anyway. And I had a bit of a standoff today with the lads from the Boot Room podcast. I think a couple of them are heavy Villa supporters, talking about the magnificence of Jack Grealish. I don't see it. I think they've missed John McGinn. I think, they really should be looking at themselves. You don't make a player like Jack Grealish your captain and expect to survive in the Premier League. That's just my view. But they missed John McGinn. But I do have sympathies on the substitutions end of things. I think they were worth a point yesterday, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they did live with us for 60 minutes, and they had their game plan, and they were trying to spring counter attacks, and
they make poor decisions. For me, particularly Jack Grealish. When you're in that position against a Liverpool or against a Manchester United or against a Manchester City, you have to look at what Southampton did, for example, against City. They took that chance. They missed a couple of chances, but they took that big chance. I mean, that's my criticism of Aston Villa. They've got Jack Grealish, who for me wastes an awful lot of decent kind of counter-attack position, and they don't have a centre-forward. They actually don't have someone that's going to get them 10 goals. So, no sympathies there.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Brack was saying that essentially, you have to kind of perm, 2 of Wijnaldum, Henderson, and Fabinho with 1 of Ox or Keita, if you're going to kind of, facilitate one of those kind of more attacking players. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yeah, well, if you look at Fabinho as a DM, he doesn't really screen the defence at all. He chases the ball, and if he doesn't win the ball with his tackle, he's kind of screwed. You get so much space in behind, and unfortunately with Keita and Ox in there, they're not going to cover him. So Henderson and Fabinho complement each other very well. I'd always have them 2 in the midfield, and then Georginio Wijnaldum. He's done so much heavy lifting for that midfield over the last few seasons. He just doesn't seem to get the recognition. But it's without a shadow of a doubt now our strongest midfield is Fabinho, Henderson, and Wijnaldum. And once one of them is missing, you lose something. And by taking kind of 2 of them that are a little bit more conservative and disciplined, you leave the space we've seen in behind. And we were blessed because Aston Villa's counter-attack was very good. They seemed to outnumber us on a few occasions, and they were sniffing out Gomez because of the way he was against City as well. And we seen a little bit of we seen a couple of errors from Gomez, but he was a lot better, and his pace was back there. But it's just the midfield, the way we play with the fullbacks so high up, you get very isolated at the back. So I'm not in favour of that midfield, seeing that midfield too often, as much as I want to see Keita. Like, Keita was very safe yesterday. I don't know. People talk about him as someone who's going to break the lines and who's going to be a bit more creative. But he's maybe it's under Klopp's direction. He's tend to do things a lot safer, getting the ball and moving it. Main criticism there yesterday in particular would have been holding onto the ball for too long and taking too many touches. I think as as he gets more minutes and he gets a bit more confidence, you might see him doing things a bit quicker and making things happen. But I think once Henderson was on the pitch and when Allen were on the pitch, we've seen Keita improve immensely.
I think he didn't have the option of Firmino either. People forget. I mean, I've seen somebody making a point yesterday of how important Firmino is, and time again we forget. You know, with all due respect to Origi, you know, he's popped up with some goals in big games, but Firmino as that option, he just pops up left, right, and centre and gives that option. And you don't really see the value of players like Keita unless they have a mobile option like that. That sacrifices itself, really. I agree with
you, Peter. You see that tree up top yesterday, right? You've got the two wingers who are automatically going to stay left and right, and it was between Mane and Origi, wasn't it, when they swapped over a couple of times, and it just stays quite high between the three of them. But Firmino comes on and he makes the centre-half's life a nightmare because he starts dropping into midfield. He'll drop into a defensive midfielder's zone, if you want to call it that, which is already being occupied by our most advanced midfielder. Mm-hmm. So it causes immediate panic.
What it does to a centre back pair, and if you look at Mings, all of a sudden his game becomes like that. You know, he has to play out to in, which no centre back likes because you're always afraid of getting caught in behind.
You see it on the goal. You see it on the first goal. The two centre halves don't know what's going on because they can't control the movement of the forward.
Yeah, Firmino is an argument. He's an argument.
Firmino's dropped out. Yeah. They're looking out, going, where's he gone? And then you've got a winger coming in from a far right or far left and cutting across. And a blind run for any centre half or any full back, as Andy would know back in the day, is a killer.
Yeah.
Just can't defend it.
And that's it. And that's the value. I mean, it's people criticise Origi for what he isn't. And I think it's unfair. I mean, you'll probably see Origi in another team next season, the season after, and he will be excellent. You know, he'll be playing in a conventional system, and he'll, you know, like that performance against Everton at Anfield this season, you'll see balls played over the top for him, and he'll score. But in our system, where the centre forward is not going to get you more than 15 goals, where the two flyers and stuff from midfield is going to happen, it's just not for him. I have a lot of sympathy for Origi, to be honest with you. It's just not his system.
It's a strange one how the fans behave in terms of players that haven't done it versus players who actually have done it. Like there's Origi last year who got so many important goals, and people still refer to him as a cult hero. A cult hero is somebody who fans adhere to, who's done really fuck all, really. But Origi's got so many important goals. He's against Everton in a Champions League final, late goals in Europe last season as well. And then the comments on Twitter, half-time, I only really go on at half-time and after the game, just call him. And I'm looking at the live comments here as well about Origi. It's really unfair. It's such a disservice to him. He's a great backup, right? And although he wasn't great yesterday, he came in and played a bit of football. I don't see the need to be calling for him to be gone. And the commentary on Sky as well about him, we need better backup. He's a grand squad player. He really is. And there you have them fans who go on waxing lyrical about Keita, who's done absolutely nothing for us so far.
Well, that's a Pogba thing with Manchester United. Everybody wants him to be great. I mean, Dennis Kelly there is saying he hopes Keita's success, but he's not seeing it, and he's right. I think Dennis is right. You know, sometimes you have to say, look, it isn't working. It hasn't worked, and we all want Keita to be this, world beater, as you said earlier on, Andy, breaking the lines. But what I want is consistency. Like what you get from Henderson, like what you get from Wijnaldum. You just don't get this from Keita. It's very hot and cold. Like you say, you go on Twitter and you see, oh, look at I don't like to see when you see fans cutting 5 seconds from a game and say, oh, isn't he a world-class player? That sickens me, because that reminds me of this Pogba thing with Manchester United. Dennis Kelly is right. Keita hasn't done it. For me, I think to do it for Liverpool, you got to be consistent. He isn't consistent.
I think, in fairness to Keita, and Dennis makes a couple of good points there. I think what I would say is that the best thing that can happen to Keita now is that, first of all, he's injury free for the rest of these 5 games, whatever time he does get to shine, that he is able to make a positive contribution, and then secondly, that he's fit and ready and raring to go at the start of next season, so that he is available when he's called upon. That's the first thing that we haven't really seen of Naby Keita since he arrived at the club, and that's his availability to be picked when required. It's been, stop-start for him. He needs to get over this kind of this kind of injury-prone kind of tag that is growing. So I think that's the first thing, and I think you're right, Andy. The second thing is then he starts showing it consistently on the pitch when he is on the pitch. Now, I thought it was interesting that the club put out this kind of snippet today. I don't know whether you've seen it, where you get the kind of, the view of Naby as he's going into the box. There's kind of like a bit of a deliberate thing there, to me, that was a bit of almost kind of product placement in a way, just to kind of remind fans that we've got an investment here in this player.
What he's capable of,
and this is what he's capable of, and just kind of showcasing a little bit of what he did there yesterday, and that's fair enough. I think as Liverpool fans, we'd be silly to not want him to succeed and deliver on what we've invested in next season and beyond. So I think that's fair enough, but I think at the same time, I made a tongue-in-cheek comment here at the start. Like, why is there this? Why do you think, God, there's this constant push to credit people who haven't delivered yet? We've got players at the club who've now consistently performed and, are about to lift another trophy, having made a very positive contribution. You can go back to 13-14 with Henderson and what he gave to us in that season. I know that he's had some low moments in between, but this is the player of the season, Gar. Why do people constantly overlook him?
Listen, we've often spoke about it. If you went by Twitter, Pete's maybe worth 180 million. There needs to be a bit of a drawback at times and a bit of realisation. Keita, in fairness to him, has come from Germany, has more or less had a free role at his previous club in midfield, has played in an advanced position. So the psychology of coming to a huge club that Liverpool are, coming with a hefty price tag, picking up a lot of injuries, the mentality of the player, settling into the coach and the system formation that we use. So there's a lot of things that come together there, and a lot of fans, I think it's because he was good in Germany, right? If you look at the season he left, he was getting sent off, and he was erratic in some of his play. So I think it's this constant push from the Twitter right to get rid of the midfield, the Brexit midfield, if you want to call it that. But you need to sit back and as fans, we can often sit back and look at it and go, this Brexit midfield has been very, very, very successful for us. Whether you like it or not, it does its job within that formation. It has its particular role within that formation. Them three guys, one will sit, one will generally be the one to retain the ball and go left and right. And the advanced player will generally be the one who breaks the lines or will be pushed out to right or left to cover to give backup to our fullbacks. So there's a lot of misunderstanding from people caught, as you say, the push for someone to replace someone in that team.
Yeah.
If you're coming in, you need to be ready to replace someone in that team. And unfortunately, Keita has never been ready at them. He showed flashes. I'm not having a go at him because there's a lot of times he has showed flashes, but he's too often got injured, or there's another thing that Klopp and the coaching staff haven't trusted him in games.
Yeah. Another player, Pete, who's come up here on the chat, Victor, has asked the question, where does Minamino fit in? This is another player who hasn't been anywhere near as long at the club as Keita, but he's starting to have some things to prove going into next season.
Again, and I always agree with Phil Casey when he makes this point. People think in terms of 11. I mean, this is 2020. Forget about that. Forget about 11. Minamino, with all due respect or to anyone that comes in, Shaqiri the same. I mean, there's games that you look at last season, this season, where the squad has really turned it for us. For example, I felt when we were up against Barcelona at home, we needed to win 4-0. I mean, Shaqiri looked like a world beater. His ball for Wijnaldum's header was just outstanding. Now, this is what a squad is about, something different. People have got to get this thing out of their heads. Where is this guy going to go into the 11? Where's this guy? No, how is this guy going to complement the 15 or the 16 or the 18 matchday squad? I look at Minamino. Minamino for me is a lad who can play anywhere across the front or as a 10. If we do look to play that system, I think he's got enough pace. The goal that I look at what he did against us when he was playing for Salzburg or whatever. And, he just, I think Klopp is laughing because it's almost like, where the hell did he come from? That's just such an intelligent, delayed run. I think once the lad settles, I don't know if he's going to be a permanent fixture in the 11. But as, for me, he's going to be one of those players that solves that problem. I'm always complaining we're not competitive in the FA Cup. We're not, we're a bit predictable. We're just going to throw 16 and 17-year-olds out there. I think Minamino's going to be solid backup for, a front three, really, that picks itself, to be honest with you. I think he's a welcome addition at £7 million to the squad. He's a welcome addition. So don't worry about where he's going to fit into the 11. Where does he fit into the squad? Is he happy to rotate in a squad that's going to play 60, 65 games a season? As long as that's the case, I'm happy.
Yeah. Cole's just joined in there. He smashed that like button. So look, like Cole, the rest of you need to smash that like button. Hit the bell icon to subscribe. We're about 25 minutes in. Notion's just dropped off there momentarily, but he's back in.
Smash that like button and smash the exit button.
You smashed the exit.
Speaking of smashing, I have to say, lads, I don't know about you, lads, but I wasn't really happy about what happened tonight with the Dixie Dean statue. There are rivals, there are neighbours, there are friends. That sort of stuff, there's no place. We won't dwell on it, but it has no place. No place on Merseyside, no place in football. Dixie Dean, absolute legend of the game. I mean, if you look at his record, he even scored goals, for Sligo Rovers, believe it or not.
He did.
This sort of thing has to go.
Pete, you've such a soft spot for rivals.
Yeah. It's respect, mate. It's respect, Andy. It's respect. I mean, I played this game, and at the end of the day, my best memories of playing the game when I was a centre forward was, being clapped off the park by fellas that I thought hated me guts. And ironically, the lads that I'm friends with on Facebook, for example, are the ones that I remember getting kicked the life out of. So for me, they're an important part of it. So yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, Pete, I've seen you there on Twitter, and so many Liverpool fans have very quickly come out and condemned that you have to assume it was a Liverpool fan who thought it was a good idea, but it certainly wasn't a good idea, and I don't think anyone.
That's those blue shits trying to get us.
Well, I wasn't going to say it myself, but now you mention it, Andy. Now you mention it. We'll see what comes out over the next day or so, because if it was an Evertonian, rest assured, social media will establish the facts.
Yeah, he found out whoever he is. But
and he won't have a job in 48 hours. That's usually how these things go down on social media. Whether you agree with that or not, we could get into a whole new debate about that. But we'll get back to yesterday, and I think it's fair to say, we needed that win, really, didn't we? Just to get the 4-0 loss out of our system. And look, we've now got 5 games left. I'm right in saying that 104 is the maximum now. Is that right?
Yeah.
104 is the maximum. So we have a little bit of wiggle room. In terms of surpassing Man City's 101, not much. And we've got teams such as Chelsea and Arsenal coming up. Someone put into the chat there a little while ago that this is kind of a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show at the moment. And look, it's about whether the players can keep a level of motivation, I suppose, over the next 5 games. Obviously, players who would come in and are more squad players are going to have a greater degree of motivation. But Andy, do you think the players can remain and will remain motivated? We've already seen a significant drop off from the likes of Andy Robbo.
Yeah. Jesus, so I seen someone on Twitter saying that Andy Robinson's definitely tried heroin.
Shawnee suggested it last night as well, to be fair.
Yeah. Like fucking hell. No, it's very hard, right? We talk so much about how Klopp motivates these players and how he gets inside their brains to motivate them and just turns them into animals on the pitch. But it's all on the basis that they get the reward at the end of the day, and they've won the league now. So the carrot that's being kind of pushing them along, puking in pre-season training and puking to get back to full fitness and all that shit they do in training, that's gone now. The title is won, and there's very little to play for now the rest of the season. And most players will be looking at how they can maintain their own fitness and going into next season, because it's going to turn around very quickly, and they won't want to be leggy 10 games into next season.
No.
So the record points will be is something to go for, but it's not very significant at the end of the day. It's more important that we start next season better, as well as last season. Yeah. And we get off and we keep going. We're probably gonna have blips before the end of the season. The City game was certainly a blip. There was so many errors that led to goals. There were so many lapses in concentration. There were so many parts, and even had Villa been a better team, they might have scored. They might have scored twice ahead of us.
Yeah.
So it's gonna happen. With Brighton and Burnley coming up, then Arsenal. I'd be surprised if we don't drop points. And I'm the most positive fan you can find, but it's just the human nature. It's things you just can't control. When you've motivated yourself to that breaking point, to the burst of bollocks to win the league, and it's done now, and players will have their attention elsewhere, and that's next season.
Yeah. I'm just going to give a quick shout out. So I'm just going to give a quick
before Guy.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to give it. Pierre. I mean,
Pierre Musa, by the way. Get Pierre Musa back up, will you please?
Yeah, Pierre Musa in Sydney, spreading the word down under, which is brilliant here. I actually lived in Sydney for 3 years, so know what it's like to support Liverpool and getting up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., watching games before you go to work and all that sort of stuff. So fair play, Pierre, for getting up and watching the Reds at crazy times and following us here on the Daytrippers and the Fatback Four. So it's important to get that shout out. But
we get some insane fans from Australia, don't we? Like, and it's so far away. Like after Ireland, I think it's the next best country for foreign fans. What do you think?
Well, half of them are Irish.
I'd agree with you.
Yeah. And I would say you see the presence on Twitter of Australian fans, a friend of the show with Nish as well, and all his gang. Some huge support, and the hours that people are watching games at now, it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, there's generally in most cities, and Australia is no exception, there'll be a Liverpool pub. So the one in Sydney is a place called Cheers. I know having spent some time in Brisbane, there was one up there as well. So yeah, and I think even John Barnes has made appearances down there at Cheers in Sydney. So it's a pretty big following, and as you say, Nish would be a regular in Cheers as well. So massive Liverpool support down under. So but just getting back onto this, what remains this season, there's a few things for me. The one thing I didn't want happening yesterday, and I don't want it happening in the remaining home games. I don't want to lose that unbeaten home record, because it's ridiculous. 55 games yesterday. It's a ridiculous record, unbeaten in the league. And someone just came in on the chat and said another priority is getting the 5 games for some of the young lads, the Harvey Elliott's, the Nico Williams, Curtis Jones, and giving them something to show for some of their contributions, not just in the league, but obviously in bailing us out in certain cup competitions, and doing us proud in those. So what you any other kind of things that we should be targeting for you, Pete, this season, or do you think next season, with the short turnaround of about a month, next season has got to, we've got to have one eye on that?
I don't agree with the idea of taking your foot off the pedal at all. I think the lads, this is a real challenge for the manager, to be honest. You know, you've got to take every game. I don't care what we've won. It's about, you know, smashing. I was particularly unhappy. Don't get me wrong. I don't begrudge the lads. I know what it's like to celebrate, you know, winning things. But, you know, I also know what it's like to go out then again 2 or 3 days later and want to win another game. You know, I would expect that. And I mean, I take the point on Andy Robertson, and who am I to begrudge a lad who does 13 and 14 kilometres a game? But I equally, you know, Manchester City were bang up for that game. The lads would have known that. And that was like a cup final for them. So I would expect, you know, I'd like to see the likes of young Harvey Elliott brought onto the pitch. And Jones has shown that he's capable of actually contributing when he gets on. These aren't sentimental. I don't think Klopp is one for giving out sentimental appearances, you know, for medals. The lads have to earn what they get. But I want to beat Burnley. I want to beat Brighton. I expect to be the worst Arsenal team I've seen in 30 years. And I expect the lads to want to beat Chelsea, considering that Chelsea knocked us out of the FA Cup. So, and I want to get 104 points. I don't think anyone should be resting on any laurels, because when you get into habits like that, that's when you start saying it's acceptable to lose there. It's acceptable to. I don't think it's acceptable for Liverpool Football Club to lose any game. And I know that sounds probably over the top, but that's the mentality you have to have if you want to continue to win things. The real competition now should be the lads saying to themselves, for example, a couple of lads saying about is Georginio Wijnaldum renewing. The real competition should be, I need to earn my place in this squad next year for lads that are coming in. That's simple. You know, for me, if you want to win things consistently, that has to be the mentality, or else forget about it.
You know? Just picking up there on one of the comments in the chat, David just dropped in. He's been listening to us for a while. First time he's tuning in live. So shared the broadcast, smash the like button, hit the bell to subscribe, all that good stuff. Gar, have you got a fan in there, Noel Tracy? Would you know Noel? Because he's put a request in, no?
No, I don't. I think he thinks I'm holding the guitar. I have my hand on my knee here.
I hope it is your knee. Put it that way.
Right, you know me too well.
Look, so we've obviously, you know, Pete's touched on it there in terms of the upcoming games. You know, they're coming thick and fast. It really is. You know, if we put a bad performance in, at least we've got another game round the corner. But we've got 2 games coming up this week. We've got Brighton away, who, you know, Brighton look relatively safe now. They've accumulated some points since the restart, certainly more than some of the clubs down there who are barely scratching a point between them. And then we've got another team that really haven't got an awful lot to play for in Burnley. So Andy, do you see these as 2 games with another opportunity to do a little bit of kind of experimental work, if you like? And do we maybe this time, you know, we changed up the midfield. Do you think maybe it's time to give another chance to the likes maybe of Nico Williams and Harvey Elliott in kind of defensive and attacking roles?
Yeah, I'd say we're going to probably expect to see the midfield change back to his favourite 3, and that's going to mean some changes elsewhere. So yeah, it could be Williams' chance to start the game. Trent and Robertson have played every game, I think, since the Suarez. Actually, Milner started left back, didn't he, in the first one, the derby?
Yeah.
So no, but I'd say we probably will see a change at full back, give Nico Williams a chance. Firmino back in, and maybe Salah or Mane drop out for somebody like the likes of Elliott. You never know.
Yeah. Gar, I'm gonna roll off a few names. Yeah. Quick yes or no. Would you like to see them in the next 2 games? Dejan Lovren.
No.
Do you want to expand on that?
No. I think he's just shown a couple of times this season that, you know, he needs to move on. He's been too erratic in games. The last appearance we saw him, he was an absolute he was a disgrace, to be honest with you, to the defensive play. It was ridiculous. I don't think he should play for us, so I think he will be sold or try to move him on, I'd imagine, during the summer. Because Ray's simply not good enough to be the fourth choice to three of the lads. Anyway, Matip obviously is another who's, a liability as regards to injuries, in fairness to the guys. So
Shaqiri?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, but I think he's a goner, Dicko. I think he's a goner.
Has he only had one league appearance? I mean, is he? Am I right in thinking he needs almost more appearances now than the likes of Curtis Jones to get a medal?
I thought he was up above them as regards to substitute appearances and stuff like that. So I think the three younger lads were the three left. To get to 5 as far as I know.
But Shaqiri was back on the bench yesterday, wasn't he? So
back on the bench, yeah. I think he was done for after he went away on international duty with an injury and came back injured again. I think we never saw him since that, really, did we not? So I think there's a trust issue there between manager and player immediately.
Adrian?
No. We have the world's best goalkeeper. Don't mess around with that position. Just leave it as it is.
Yeah. So, any players that you'd be looking forward to seeing outside of like which of the younger players? Because you do coaching of young players yourself. Which of the younger players would you like to see more of between now and the end of the season?
I think Andy's touched on Elliot a lot. I think he's one who in games he's shown. He's got he's got a tremendous confidence about him. But the one to me, I think, we've just spoke about is Curtis Jones. His arrogance on the ball is ridiculous. Or the little chat with Andy today on Twitter, as regards, there's people showing out, should we sign Grealish? No, you've got Curtis Jones there. He showed in a couple of games this season. He's got a beautiful arrogance on the ball. He's so mature in his game as well. He doesn't overplay the ball. He's willing to do it 1-2, move around quickly. But he seems to be one of these guys that's always available for the ball.
That's courage. That's courage.
And these guys are guys who generally go places in the game, in my opinion. He's like Andy in an over 35 game. I'm sure he's always ready to get the ball, and he's got 20-year-olds running around him like head cases. He's the one to me that I want to see more of in the last few. It's
the personality and the attitude. He has the personality to just excel in the game. I don't know whether it's the toxic connection or whatever, but he really reminds me of Fowler when he broke in the scene. His personality and his arrogance on the pitch, and it's like this is nothing to him. This is just fucking. This is what he's been designed to do. I've every confidence in Curtis Jones that he's gonna make it for Liverpool.
And he's only on the pitch 3 or 4 minutes yesterday, and he's 35 yards out. He's got players available right or left of him, and he got the ball just falls to him. He goes, "I'm gonna smash this." Now it does end up in the stand, but any other player gets a absolute bollocking from his midfielder. What are you doing? Yeah, he's just so ultra confident, and then he goes and obviously a tremendous run straight in and scores
Yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, the difference between somebody just having a nice career and somebody really making it is back in your own ability. I mean, the amount of times we've signed players or we've seen players at this level. For example, the one that comes to mind with me is Emil Heskey. He was very much a player that had to be sat down before every game and reminded of his qualities. And I think if you've read his book, I think he confirms that Martin O'Neill used to sit him down and had to remind, listen, you're the biggest, fastest guy in the park. You're going to go out there and you're going to do X. But Andy touched on earlier, people like Robbie Fowler, just turn up. Steven Gerrard, turn up, listen, I'm going to be the best player here. And Jones seems to have that about him. I don't call that arrogance. That's just self-awareness. Arrogance is when you don't have the ability to back up the bravado that's inside you. For me, this is self-awareness and confidence. Yeah. And I look at someone like like Jones, and I think he's very self-aware. He will drop his shoulder. He will see a glimpse, and he'd say, I can find that top corner from here. You've seen it against Everton. You've seen him constantly getting into the box yesterday. You've seen him getting into those positions. That's a good sign. I remember as a kid watching Paul Scholes against Barcelona when he was 17, tried to chip the goalkeeper from 25 yards, and you just knew this lad is going to do very, very well in the game. To have that kind of self-awareness, which is what you need to succeed,
But do you remember when Stevie came to the scene? He was quite timid. Took him a few games to kind of find his feet. And Trent as well mentions when he got his chance and he found out he was shitting himself. I don't think there's anything, and I suppose arrogance is normally used as a negative towards a player. But I just mean that in the best of intentions for Curtis Jones.
I always said the same,
Yeah, it's just, a young player when they break onto the scene and they just tear it up straight away. And generally when you make a sign and you look at all our Torres broke on the scene straight away, he was tearing it up. Suarez, you see at United, Fernando's coming in and he's tearing it up straight away. You generally don't have to wait long for quality to shine through. And I think that's what we're seeing with Jones. Like he's well capable of coming into that team and play and filling a space for 10 games, no problem. And I fucking guarantee you he'd do serious damage.
And Shawnee just touched on something there in regards to what Milner just said in regards to listening. And there's no women involved. And when you've got a kid who's willing to listen and take advice on, or walk over to a manager and ask, what should I do next? Or where can I do? Or he's going over to the likes of Milner and guys like that and say, taking advice from these guys. These are the guys who will go places. It's the little dicks who think they've made it, who fall off. But someone like this, Andy's just spoken, it's a beautiful arrogance. He gets on the ball and he seems to be ahead of others within the game. It's really, really, it's enjoyable to watch, and he's the one to me that I want to see a hell of a lot more of. But just a comment that came in there a few minutes ago on a certain player we've been linked to it, right?
We'll get onto that.
And I can tell you, it's really, really real, the interest, right? No. And this is a coaching contact I have in Germany, right? So I can just tell you it's really real, and that's what I'm just going to leave at.
Well, here at Barcelona, listen, there's other reasons why it makes sense, and I think it kind of doesn't tick a couple of the boxes that we'd normally tick, but in the position that we're in, and considering the few months that the world has gone through, it absolutely makes sense. Plus, this type of player, and I know we'll talk about it later, but this type of player, you normally have to wait 5 or 6 years to develop the attributes that he has as a deep line midfield player. You can't afford that in the position that we're in, but let's touch on it later.
Yeah, just to close down on the young players though, Andy, I mean, for me, a lot of this is to do with Klopp, from Klopp down through his coaching staff, and giving these lads a confidence and a platform and a system and a culture to actually step forward. And it's no coincidence to me that we're not talking about, one wonder kid or super kid, because every club can have that. Every club can have a Phil Foden coming through, for example. But we've got multiple players coming through in different positions. You've got your Nico Williams, you've got Curtis Jones, you've got Harvey Elliott, and you've even got lads not far behind them, the likes of Kajana Hoover as well, who've still got a chance. So Andy, just on that side of things, does it give you massive hope for the future that we can actually get, in essence, the equivalent of a £100 million signing from within the club?
Yeah, I think the way Klopp has brought the youth academy and the first team together at Kirby now, it's with a view to build for the future. And I think when a manager thinks about the future, like unlike Mourinho, when you're building for the future, you have to look at kids all the way up playing the same way, doing the same things, that they're ready-made. And when you're creating a dynasty at a club like Klopp is at Liverpool, It doesn't work unless you've got kids coming up through the ranks. It's very hard to bring players in. You see how long it's taken certain players like to come up to speed, to get into the gegenpressing, and to get into how he wants it to play. Whereas like these kids are kind of watching from a slight distance, but they know what it's all about. They know what's expected of them, and they're going to be at it. They're going to be at it in training with their own coaches, doing what Klopp wants them to do. So they're ready to come in. But we've seen so many signings, and Keita's taken 2 seasons now, and he's still not quite there. Minamino's come in, and he's still earning his gegenpressing apprenticeship. And we seen Robertson have to do it. We see Ox have to do it. We seen Fabinho have to do it for a short time. So that's just the way it goes. It's harder to buy players in to do exactly what you need to do straight away. So we're going to create a dynasty. It's going to have to involve the young players, and we've got some buttes coming through.
Yeah, definitely. As good a crop as we've had in recent years, really. So we'll move on now, Guy. You were itching to get this topic out there. So we will move on to the fact that obviously we still have to look around in the transfer market, and obviously Thiago, now that Timo Werner is all dead and buried and is now a Chelsea player, Thiago is the latest in a bit of a line of players, I guess, who've been linked, but this does seem to have substantial legs at this point. You know, for a lot of lads who play a lot of FIFA, he's already made 12 appearances, scored 6 goals, got 3 assists. You know, he's first name on the team sheet, but in the real world, I mean, are you excited by this? Shawnee dropped a comment in the chat there that this would be like your ma going out to Smith's and bringing back a present. It's not even Christmas or your birthday.
Good point.
This guy is incredible. He's had a few injuries, and not a lot. He's had a couple of injuries at Bourne. This guy is a type of player that sees the game 5 minutes before other people. If I'm honest with you, right, the guy is such a talent. He scores goals. His eye for a pass is amazing. He's technically so good on a ball. He can tackle. He's a real talent. He's only 29, lads, and it's the type of player who, you know, that Alonso-esque player who can run games and pull strings in the middle.
I think though, Gar, the key is I think Klopp has made a decision about Fabinho. I think Fabinho's position, I think he's going to be centre back with Van Dijk going forward. I think a couple of times against elite sides, and I know this is a controversial thing to say, but I think Joe Gomez, and I'm a big fan of Joe Gomez, I've seen him get caught between 1, 2 and 3 players too many times against good sides. And I think Fabinho steadying the ship in those big games, it is needed. However, what's also needed, a lot of teams are going to sit off Liverpool in 60 or 70% of games next year. Thiago, as well as being a very constructive and creative player, is also very disruptive. He breaks up an awful lot of play from that deep line position, and his expertise is actually seeing. It's like for some players the game is like drafts. For him it's like chess. He sees 3 and 4 people and can take 3 and 4 people out of games immediately. Now that's a very, very rare. That's why you can't bring a young player in to do that. And for me, this is a sign of that makes real sense from a football perspective. We've said this for weeks, and I've said it in this forum for weeks. Nobody is going to come at. Nobody's going to. I might be Sean, but nobody's going to come at. Nobody's going to come at Liverpool. Nobody's going to come at Liverpool. So you know, Andy made the point earlier on that Fabinho looks a little bit, you know, his game is the screen, but in those games, in those big games, the Manchester City games, the big games in Champions League where we struggle against Atletico Madrid, you kind of get caught cold. Now, I think in those, when you're trying to unlock stubborn teams, you need a very, very smart player. Fabinho is very, very good at screening, but is he going to unlock from that deep line position the big teams? Listen, you can argue with me all you want, but for me, we don't have that intelligence in the middle of the park to really unlock stubborn teams, and that's the only drawback I see about Liverpool right now.
I don't see Fabinho dropping into centre half. I think he can certainly do a job there. But the Fabinho's strength so far, what's been so great about him is how he follows the football, how he goes into the middle of the park, high up the pitch, and wins the ball a point, and then all of a sudden we're away and we have a chance. Most of our goals come from winning the ball in the opposition's half. He won't get to do that at centre back. I don't think he has the pace to play at centre back like Gomez does, with such a high line as well. I think we'd be killing Fabinho's career by playing him centre back.
I think though you're undervaluing. You're forgetting the value of Van Dijk, who's quicker than anybody, and you're forgetting about what we have in midfield and what we have right at left back. I mean, we don't play like people argue that, for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold should be a midfield player. For all intents and purposes, he is. Forget about the lineup on Sky Sports as it looks. That team moves. Depending on where the ball is, it moves like no other team does. So if the ball, for example, Gar will tell you this, if you're in a situation where you're being attacked down that right-hand side, the game, our formation moves to accommodate that. So you've got Georginio Wijnaldum all of a sudden moving to another position, and it's lined up in 3 or 4 different ways, depending on what way you're being approached. I know the Fabinho shout sounds a little bit off-centre, a little bit, but for me, I'm telling you, we haven't been attacked. Every time we've been attacked by a decent side, we've been exposed.
There's a belt of a shout up there.
No, but it might be
number 10. Alice left wing.
Pete, can I ask you something?
All you want.
I'm laughing at the comment. I'm not laughing at you, Pete.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Pete, can I ask you something, Pete? Are you living in Amsterdam or are you living in
Are you telling me though? Are you telling me that as we all want Joe Gomez to be the future and to be great, but really, I mean, I know half the lads were pissed, but when everybody else wasn't functioning around him, he looked to me lost.
He does throw out these worrying performances, probably about one in every sort of 10 games.
He looked against Manchester City completely out of his depth. Completely. Now, if you want to win the Champions League again, I'm sorry. If you want to win the Champions League, it has to be elite positioning, elite organisation. You cannot have a moment where a player like Kevin De Bruyne is putting your main centre back one between 3 players. And we were exposed 3 or 4 times. The penalty was laughable. Nobody's talking about it, but it's laughable. I don't care how drunk the other players were. That's a manager looking at a player saying, he's not for me. I don't care. You're in a situation. He practically waltzed Sterling from one side of the box to the other before he threw him to the ground. That for me is not an elite centre back. They can laugh all they want. That's not what an elite centre back does. So Shawnee can throw the comment that I'm crazy all he wants. But these are the games that a manager makes a big decision in. Are you telling me that Joe Gomez, if you isolate that performance, are you telling me that's an elite centre back? I'm calling it now. I think the manager has made a decision on Joe Gomez.
Oh, I tend to disagree.
It may not be Fabinho.
I think he's willing to kind of forgive that particular performance. I don't think he will take it too.
But why?
Why? Because of the situation as much as anything else, because of the fact that it was the game after us clinching the league. And I think there was a lot of component parts of that performance that were all
I accept that, but accept this. Imagine Joe Gomez knows, if you're his manager, Joe Gomez and Raheem Sterling have had this thing mentally for the whole season. Yes. So I'm thinking to myself, the rest of the lads, Andy Robinson, they might be on it. They might be, medals around their neck. But I know that Joe's going to be up for this, and he's going to want to make sure that Raheem Sterling is in his box. Raheem Sterling pissed all over Joe Gomez. Now, for me, knowing the history of what happened this season between them, that would be a worry for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree that he lost the mental battle on that one.
We should be coming out of that game thinking Andy Robinson was stinking. Van Dijk wasn't at it. A few lads, but Joe Gomez, you could see that this was in his mind for weeks, and he made sure that he was tip-top on it. He was embarrassing. And I think based on, if that was me as a manager, someone that has managed and played, I'd be making a decision based on that. Because Joe Gomez should have been focused on that. You should have been coming out of that game saying everybody else was shy, but Joe Gomez was on it and he didn't give Raheem Sterling a kick. Joe Gomez handed the Man of the Match award to Raheem Sterling by virtue of the way he played. He was awful.
The one thing I would agree with you, Pete, on is I agreed with the fact that he did slot Fabinho back in next to Van Dijk for the second.
And it wasn't
minutes.
so bad, was it? It wasn't so bad.
It wasn't so bad, but it would have been a hell of a lot worse if Dejan Lovren would have come on. I could have told you that.
But I didn't mention Lovren. He's out of the picture. But that game could have been a 6 or 7. Manchester City bang up for it, annoyed, angry, sharp, focused. Could have been a 6 or 7. Fabinho went in there for me and put his finger in the dam. People can laugh all they want. I know this game. And I know when managers make decisions. Alex Ferguson used to do it all the time. That's why Manchester United were successful. Because Alex Ferguson used to make these decisions. Why? When people weren't expecting them to make. He'd be watching things when you least expected them. That's the difference between great and having a laugh. And isn't this ha ha he he? This is when real managers sit and go, okay, I'm going to find out who's who in this squad. That's the difference.
Fair point, Pete. Mate. I'm going to carry on having a laugh, though, and I'm going to put this next question to Andy. I'm going to put this next question to Andy. Squad numbers. Surely Thiago takes the number 14 shirt and Hendo gets bumped down to something like 23. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're to believe what Twitter's telling you, Thiago's Henderson's successor. After all, Henderson is 30 now, and the youthful Thiago is 10 months younger than him, so he's expected to come in and take his place now for the next 10 years.
He looks young.
Yeah.
The comments are bleeding dead, right, lads?
But I don't know what to make of this Thiago one until Klopp's response in the press conference. I thought it was never going to happen. When you look at it, it just didn't seem like a signing we were going to make. Normally, when you hear of agents spouting shit or the press in a different country talking about a signing for us first, it doesn't really happen. But Klopp laughed and says, I'm not going to give a comment about a player. There has to be something brewing in the background. And, I have a few conversations with Edwards myself, and he's a few rumblings going on there. Like, it was a bit of a nod and a wink.
Are you sure?
I personally think Genie's gone at.
I mean, this is obviously the associated part of this, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Genie's gone, Dicko. It's for that position, for that role, for someone who dominates the ball, for someone who can turn over the ball quick, for a midfielder in tight spaces when he's got guys, 4 or 5 guys to take out of the game. To me, if he goes for that player, he's replacing someone there. And I think the contract thing has gone on and on and on for a while with Genie. And for me, it looks like
it's a big loss if it is.
He's gone.
It's a big loss.
And do you think, Pete mentioned about, make references there back to Fergie and kind of, I guess certain ruthlessness about Fergie in his kind of reign. Would you say this is kind of more a Genie Wijnaldum decision or more of a Klopp and the club decision if he did move on?
I think it's a Klopp and club one, right? Just judging at it. Genie's been dropped a couple of times lately as well. When you thought he might have started those games, I think
he doesn't even start against Barcelona in the second leg. Remember as well.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I don't know. He hasn't been playing. So his performances haven't been off the wall. This season. He's been very inconsistent as I suppose their 3 midfielders go. Henderson's been brilliant. Fabinho's been inconsistent as well. He's had a couple of injuries. But I think Klopp. There's obviously something going on in the background in regards to this contract thing. It's been going on a long time, and for me, it screams that if one player is coming in that position, that one player is going out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a player like, excuse me, Thiago, who's 29, peak of his career, doesn't come into a football team at that age and that ability without something given. So something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
If it does, of course. And the way Klopp reacted, I'm starting to think it will. Henderson's going nowhere. You know, there's players coming out of that midfield probably in the next couple of years, but right now, if you sign a player like Thiago, he comes into the team and he starts 90% of the games, just as Firmino does, just as Salah, Mane, the spine does. Players like that don't come around and piss around for 2 years trying to break their way into the team. He comes in and something gives. So if you look at the two players, he compares very well to Wijnaldum. A lot of hard work, and he's able to kind of create a lot of space in the middle of the park.
Much more vision than
more vision, but short, sharp stuff. I think if you want to liken to any of our midfielders, I mean, you couldn't even say like he's a Keita replacement because Keita hasn't established himself in the midfield yet. But if you look at, and Fabinho's going nowhere. So
I think you're right, Andy. You know, this is an evolution decision if it's real. It's about again, you know, we've established the fact that Liverpool are not going to be overrun by any team. Liverpool will overrun you. So teams are starting to say, okay, we'll sit off and we'll try to rope it up. We'll try. This is about unlocking teams. For me, it's about trying to unlock teams. You know, for me, the big sucker punch was Atletico Madrid. We should still be in the Champions League. Okay, we can point at the goalkeeper, and we're probably right too. But you're trading, and that was for me, the Atletico game at home at Anfield was our best performance. What does that tell you? It tells you that we need to be clinical. We need to be opening teams up for more obvious chances, and I think Klopp has recognised that we just need to be more surgical, and that would be a surgical signing. You can't bring that type of quality through the kids and wait for it to happen. It has to be brought in. You know?
Yeah, I mean, Kev O'Sullivan makes the point that these kind of decisions and the decision around Gini, you know, would have been made months ago. I mean, the one thing though that this season it's been like no other is that obviously we've had the impact of coronavirus and you know the fact that the season's gone on longer. You know, finances are being hit all around different leagues to different degrees. So, Gar, I guess things, you know, in Grizz's words, probably more fluid than ever.
Yeah, probably more fluid. And there's another thing to keep an eye on at Bayern Munich, lads, is the David Alaba situation. Now, I'm going full Grizz here tonight, by the way, lads.
Someone has to.
His contract expires in 2021, and he's been touted to the Premier League for the last couple of months. So, be very, very interesting sign to see. Keep an eye on that David Alaba thing as well, considering he can play as a left-sided centre half.
And he's versatile. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing that was mentioned last night in the Fatback Four, I was left wondering myself, was if we do sign Thiago, does he still play out the Champions League for Bayern Munich, or does he join us missing out on the opportunity to win a Champions League?
Bayern Munich, plays. He came on for 3 minutes the other day in the cup game, the cup final, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
he got a nice photograph with Coutinho.
He did, he did. Yeah. So we don't think you know, some of the suggestions that maybe he's a Lallana replacement, or you know, combination of Lallana and Milner.
If you add up Lallana's minutes, Milner's minutes, add them all up, they don't fucking meet the requirements of a fella who's at the peak of his career and has the quality. Yeah. It has to be Wijnaldum. It has to be. And if you think about it from Wijnaldum's perspective, he's a fucking workhorse in there, and he's entitled to enjoy his football a little bit more than that. You see when he plays for the international team, he plays with way more freedom.
Scores a lot of
goals.
He gets involved in all the goals, and he gets to have the crack. You know, when Wijnaldum goes and plays in Italy or Spain, he buzzes it there, you know.
He'll have no shortage of clubs looking to take a player like that.
Yeah. Look how versatile he is. He could play anywhere. And, you know, but I miss him at Liverpool. I've been a huge fan of him.
Yeah.
And I always like a player who's underrated or not recognised by the supporters. You know, you go on and you listen, and I fucking hate referring to Twitter and citing Twitter as my reference for things, but it's kind of where we all talk. But it's not real, you know. It's not a fair reflection of society. It's not a fair reflection of the fan base as such. But I see him getting a lot of criticism. And what does he do? What's he done for us? People with short memories. We'll look back, and no matter how good Thiago is, if he does come in, we'll look back at Milner and we'll miss him. Georginio Wijnaldum.
Yeah, I think we would. But you could see him succeeding at, say, Juventus, where Emre Can failed, couldn't you? You really could.
But the game is running out of guys. Andy is right. The game is running out of guys like that. Honest people. I had a standing debate about Jack. I mean, Jack Grealish, Jesus fucking Christ. People ask me, why do you not think he's a good captain? Why do you not think he just has no balls? If Georginio Wijnaldum is a captain, we've got 5 or 6 captains. That's why we're champions. And that's why he'll be missed. I don't want the Jack Grealish. I don't want these players who need other players. If you buy him, you'll unlock him. If you buy him,
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that going on.
Guys like Georginio Wijnaldum, you put a jersey on his back and you just tell him, listen, get out there, stop that lad from playing. And by the way, when we win it, give it to that lad, or make sure things out and get yourself into the box and get yourself a couple of goals. Complete leadership and battling. All this unlock him by signing him bollocks like Jack Grealish and people like that. This is why we'll miss. And I think this is why Klopp looked at the side last year and was like, I don't need to buy anyone, and I'm not selling anyone. And everyone went, do you remember this? Everyone went absolutely mental. Oh, we're going to fall so far behind. And we were stronger than ever. So to be fair, you have to be pretty special to get into this side. And I think the lads are right. Thiago potentially could be. But equally, I'm very jealous of losing anybody from it. Genie is right at the top of that list.
Yeah, Andy, I mean, someone made the comment there in the chat about they'd be gutted if Genie left. I guess, someone like Genie would signify the first real player of this kind of this dynasty, if you like, because obviously the last high profile player really who you'd want to talk any significant time over was Coutinho, and that was before we started putting all of these trophies in the cabinet. But for someone who's been an integral part of all of this success over the last few years, Andy, to leave, it's going to be a sad day, isn't it?
Yeah. We're talking about it as if it's definitely happening.
I hope not.
But it will be my inclination, all right, that he was probably always going to be the most likely of this 11, if you like. There's been a few kind of, not passengers, but there's been players that come in and out of the team. But when Alan's been as ever present as most of them, and with the contract stuff going on, you kind of would expect that he would have been the first to kind of break away. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, we've got 5 minutes left. Just to remind everyone who's been watching tonight, smash that like button, hit the bell icon to subscribe. We'll be back next week. Gav will be on through the week with some more, I guess, reaction following the games that we've got upcoming between now and next Monday. So to wrap everything up, and there was just a shout there about be mad for Genie to be leaving before Lovren, but I think they might, if Genie was going, it might be around the same kind of time as Degsy Lovren, because I can't see Degsy Lovren lasting. And look at this, a massive observation that a bit of redemption for Andy's clock. It is more accurate, apparently. Shawnee's just made a phone call into the talk and clock, and yours is just about more accurate. Having said that, I could check. I could do a quick check at the temperature climate control clock, and I would say that is absolutely bang on.
You never know. Shawnee could be watching on Nilosat.
That's true.
Sean watching from Malaga or Dublin? Where are you, Sean?
So we'll just end tonight by we'll take some predictions for the next 2 games. So Andy, Brighton away, followed by Burnley at home. Predictions?
I don't think we're going to score loads of goals. over the two games, I think we win 5-1.
5-1 aggregate score, yeah?
Yeah. Score 5 and concede 1.
Okay.
Is that all right, or do you want me to be more specific?
How many points are we getting from those two games?
6
points, yeah.
6 points, yeah. Gar?
2-0 against Brighton, and I'm going 3-1 against Burnley.
That's 5-1. You just copied Andy.
Yeah. I don't know which game we're going to see the more goals. It's two games. Yeah, it's two. One of those games we're not going to score loads of goals.
Okay. And Pete, 6 points. You've already should have shouted it there.
Therefore, I think we do Brighton 3-0 there. I think they probably think they're over the line already, and we beat Burnley. Our usual 2-1. We'll concede. We always concede against Burnley, and I think I'd like a clean sheet against Burnley because Alisson's up against young Pope for the clean sheet. To be honest with you, so I'd like to see the Golden Gloves go to Alisson again, the best keeper in the world.
Yeah, I have to say we didn't mention him really tonight, but he made some decent saves again yesterday, didn't he? He absolutely showed his worth and his value off the back of what would have been completely alien to him conceding 4.
Yeah.
Thiago spotted in the Wirral house hunting. I'm not buying that. If he was really house hunting, he'd be in Formby now, and that's a fact.
Williams low.
Apparently, Sacco's gaff was up for sale in Formby.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, he was. We were expecting him to come back, and he was expecting to come back.
He was coming back as captain, Andy.
Yeah, once his Achilles was fixed up, he was going to be back. Actually, I see his Achilles went there at the weekend. Did you see that?
No. Did it?
Did it?
His legs blew up.
Danny Emery's been on fire tonight, mate. Thiago spotted learning to drive a right-hand drive mower. Who is that Danny Emery? His quality.
That's narrowing it down, isn't it? And Gerrard's apparently on the phone to Thiago as we speak.
Have to go to Rangers.
Probably trying to rent a spare gaff that Stevie G's got in Formby as well. You know what I mean? Like, this is the place to be.
I think Shawnee's got it nailed. Shawnee knows where he's going to stay.
Oh, Laurie's apartment.
In Laurie's apartment, yeah. So he was to be a mainstay centre half. I'm still waiting for it to happen though.
Why would he need to buy a gaff when he can live rent free in Pep Guardiola's head?
Yeah,
once he signs.
Beautiful.
So look, my predictions upcoming are, I think we will drop some points. I think it'll be against Brighton. I'm going to predict a 2-2 draw, followed by a repeat of a 2-0 victory against Burnley. So, And I've just got a feeling we're not going to make this 101, lads. I think we might just fall a little bit short over the next 5 games. But anyway, what do I know? We'll see. We'll be back next Monday. We will try and keep Phil off, and we'll try and keep the positivity going. No, quick shout out to Phil. We do miss you, Phil, when you're not on, just for that balance. And as I said, in the meantime, Gavin will be with you, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to say it on the pod live, but it is done. Yeah, it's the only sign. Announced it on Wednesday night, 10 p.m.